Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And so, what I'm going to talk about, I wasn't planning on doing the live tonight. But when I saw that Rolf Harris's wife had died, I thought, that'd be something interesting to talk about because, what do we think about Rolf's wife, Alwyn? What do we think about? Because she's stuck by Rolf Harris. Most of you, I don't think I have to explain really who Rolf Harris is, but this is him here in the picture in his heyday. That's his wife Alwyn and their daughter Bindi. And of course, Rolf Harris was at one point he was like a Jimmy Savile type, wasn't he? He was famous. He was all over the TV when I was a girl, when I was young. Oh my God, he was on the telly, all the time. He had pop songs. He was a painter. He painted the Queen. We're going to look at some of his artwork. He was one of the most famous people in television. And then, of course, it all came crashing down with the Operation U-Tree, which exposed Jimmy Savile after he was dead, of course, not while he was alive. Jimmy Savile never got held to account at all for his crimes. But Rolf sort of did, or did he? Because he didn't, he lived to be 93. He had a fantastic life. I think he served some time in prison. We're going to look at that. Or did he? Was he ever really held accountable? And his wife, Alwyn, she stuck by him all the way through all of it, even though one of his alleged victims, was only 7 or 8 years old. So, So let's chat. Okay, so the famous Rolf Harris, very popular figure with young people, older people. He was popular with everyone, popular with the royal family, etc. So we're going to talk about him in a moment, sort of where he was born, a little bit about his life. Maybe there's some of you don't know about him, never heard of him, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I'm Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for watching, for spending a little bit of time with me to talk. When these sort of things happen and it makes you think, and it's nice to talk it out with people or, see what other people think about. I'm especially thinking of Elwyn. What do we think about her? What was her attitude? And why did she stick by Rolf, even though some of the claims against him were really, horrible? So first of all, I just want to thank everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you. Special thank you, as always, to all my members. And also, don't forget, we're going to be having first week in October sometime, a sort of a fun live where we're going to look at everybody's animal photos, pet photos. So I've received quite a lot of Chatter's pets that we're going to look at, and we're going to have a quiz on animals of some kind. in the first week in October. So send me into my email, which I'll put my email actually. Send your photos of your pets to my email, Vicky Marie Chats gmail.com, and I'll put them all together in a little video in the first week in October, and we'll have a fun live and have a look at everybody's pets. Okay, now I'm just going to say hello to everyone who's here so far, and then we'll get on with the stream. Hi, David. Yes, Animal Hospital. I mean, gosh, that was such a, talking of pets and things like that. Animal Hospital, very popular program. So that was, you know, he started off sort of doing his painting and children's entertaining. And the Animal Hospital was more in the twilight of his career, wasn't it? More as it was recent. Well, it probably wasn't that recent. It feels recent. You know, gosh, I mean, it was so popular, Animal Hospital. So he was one of those, just like Jimmy Savile, except, of course, Jimmy Savile was already deceased. So they couldn't cancel Jimmy Savile because he was already cancelled, wasn't he? You know, nothing happened to Jimmy Savile through his life. You know, there was rumours, there was people were casting aspersions, but nothing ever happened to him. And Jimmy Savile was only exposed after he died. So with Rolf, though, it was different. So he did receive a lot of, you know, he was uncovered. There was a lot of bad press and that. But he still lived to the age of 93, and he died at home, I believe, or he certainly wasn't in prison. So, you know, didn't do that badly, did he, really, for all the bad things he did? Anyway, and as I say, Elwyn stuck by him all the way through it, which to me is just a surprise. Why do these women do that kind of thing? Or men, or, you know, but I think women who stick by men who have, you know, actually abused children. How strange is that, really? And in fact, of course, one of the minors that he'd abused was a friend of their daughter, and even his daughter really stuck by him as well, didn't she? Anyway, we're gonna look into his story. But so this picture in happier times when Bindi was only young. Let me just tell you a little bit about Rolf Harris and his life. Now, of course, he actually was, even though he was famous more, you know, especially in Britain, in Great Britain, he was Australian. He was born in Perth, in Australia on the 30th of March, 1930. So, yeah. And he was 93 when he died. He only died last year on the 10th of May. So he was a musician, he was a television personality, he was a painter, he was an actor. And he was convicted in 2014 with the essay of 4 underage girls, which of course ended his career. So he had several pop songs. I say pop songs, I don't know if you'd call them pop songs, but he had several songs that reached the charts, etc. Top 10 hits, Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. I mean, sorry. But when you think about now, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. I mean, how did that become a top 10 hit? But it did. You know, I can't play it because it'd be all that copyright rubbish, but I might sing it again in a bit. Yeah, Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. Just ridiculous song. And of course, another one was Two Little Boys. Now, Oh, which, you know, he didn't actually abuse any boys. There were girls. I believe there was no boys included. But I loved that song when I was a kid. I remember it being on Top of the Pops. Wasn't that number one? Yeah, that reached number one in the UK. And I feel as if it was number one for a while, but maybe I'm wrong. And that was Two Little Boys Had Two Little Toys. Dee 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 dee. And it was very sad because it was about going to war, wasn't it? Did you think I would leave you dying when there's room on my horse for two? Do you remember that? I used to cry when I listened because it's like quite, it's the story of these two little boys when they're kids and, they help each other about toys and then they go to war. One saves the other one's life. And, it's a very dramatic song. It's a lot better than Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. But, and then there was Jake the Peg with his extra leg, real classic songs. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like real classic songs. Hi, Seffi. But, it's funny because I do feel it was like an age of innocence, wasn't it? That age, but we didn't know what was all going on in the background. All felt innocent, when I was young. That's how I feel. There was no, I don't know. Now it's like it's on everyone's sort of lips talking about child abusers and this, that, and the other. Sometimes I think Britain's obsessed by it, but I think that's what Jimmy Savile did. The case of Jimmy Savile. Now it's like everyone gets accused of it or everyone's suspected of it. But this was a different era. It was more of an age of innocence. Songs like Jake the Peg and his extra leg, and Rolf Harris talking about his didgeridoo and all that. They were like, you just, it was a whole different time because, someone like Rolf Harris, he couldn't, the entertainment things just won't cut it today, would they? But he progressed, he progressed with the times. He went on Animal Hospital. So he still managed to stay popular, didn't he? But yeah, don't you think that it's funny, those such innocent times, but it wasn't innocent, now looking back at what was really going on at the time was not innocent, was it? But what else do we know about Rolf? So, so he finally, it was the Jimmy Savile abuse scandal that brought him down because he was arrested as part of that Operation U-Tree when the police finally got their act together, started investigating people, investigating historical allegations of SO. So, does that mean, that these were reported at the time, but nobody took any notice of it? And then just because of the Jimmy Savile scandal, that suddenly the police started listening to people? Anyway, he was sentenced to 5 years and 9 months in prison when he was convicted on 12 counts of indecent assault on 4 female victims between the ages of 8 and 19 at the times that the offences took place. And the offences took place between the 60s and the 80s. Now, he only served 3 years. Nearly 3 years he served at prison Stafford. He was released on licence in 2017. Now, bear in mind that by the time he was convicted, he was the portrait painter for the Queen. He was like in with the royal family. He was like a Jimmy Savile of his time. He was, so he had honours, he had, you name it, he had it. So all those were stripped from him. And then, of course, all his TV programmes had to be taken off the air. And that must have been a shame for the Animal Hospital ones because they were still popular. The reruns weren't allowed to be played. Now, and they weren't the only offences, because there was also other offences. But one was so one of those offences, one of those convictions involving the 8-year-old girl, was overturned in 2017, and he tried to appeal against the other 3 girls, the convictions against the other 3 girls, but that was refused. So yeah, so he was born in Perth in Australia. I'm just trying to see, how did he end up coming back? How did he end up coming to Britain? So his parents had emigrated from Cardiff in Wales. So his parents were British. And I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to fast forward here, have a look how he ended up coming to Britain. So apparently he moved to England in 1952 when he was 22. And that's when he started working at the BBC. And yeah, so that's where he started his career, on the BBC. And he worked with the ITV2. I'm not sure where he met his wife. Let's see if I can find it. Just trying to find out where he met. I can't see that on here. Hang on. Personal life. Yeah, so Alwyn was a Welsh sculptor and jeweller, and he married her on the 1st of March 1958 in London, and they had a daughter. So that's how they met, and they got married. Now, so he fell into ill health later on, and he in October 2022. So he was released from prison. When was he released from prison? Was he released from prison before he got old? Yeah, not before he got old. Before he got really ill. He was out of prison. He was at home, in his home in Bray, Berkshire, which we'll have a look at later. They lived in a beautiful house. You know, I don't know that and he was 93 by then, so you do expect maybe to have some illness at 93. And apparently he had neck cancer. He was unable to talk, and he was being fed via a tube and required 24-hour care. So he must have, I don't know what his financial circumstances were. But so I don't know if you remember when he died, but his death was not announced, was it? He died on the 10th of May, and it wasn't announced that he was actually dead until the 23rd of May, so that he could have a dignified funeral. It's amazing how they make all these allowances to, convicted paedophiles, basically, just like so that he can have a dignified funeral. Anyway, his death certificate gave the cause of death as neck cancer and frailty of old age. So he had all these awards, lots of awards for his art, etc., and they were all taken back. Hi, Just Me. Oh yeah, I remember that swimming commercial. Hi, Moonbeam. Yeah, I remember that swimming commercial. It was weird. You wouldn't want to go swimming with him, would you? Well, you wouldn't send your children off swimming with him. Yeah, did you hear the Chihuahua, David? Luckily, the big dog's not down yet, but when they swap over in a bit, when if the Chihuahua starts again, but you can hear it, can't you? It's up the road. You can hear it from here because I've got the windows open. I've got the windows open because I'm determined not to put on the air conditioning because it's September. So even though it's 30 degrees, according to my computer, I'm refusing to put the air conditioning on. But I tell you, it's tough not to put it on, but I'm not putting it on because God, if you saw my last electricity, my last electricity bill. God, so I'm not having that this time. So I've got the windows open, so you will hear you won't hear my dogs until the big dog comes down, but you'll hear the Chihuahua up the road. Little shit it is. Oh God, yeah, Len Fairclough. I'd forgotten about him from Coronation Street. He was another one. Oh, there was loads of them, weren't there? You know, it just seemed like one after the other. It was a question in the end of who wasn't a child lover, you know, of these sort of old school famous people, wasn't it? So let's just have it. I'm going to just take that photo off and let's have a look at an article. We're going to have a look at the Daily Mail because I've got some good photos in there. So, inside the final years of Rolf Harris's widow. So, the reason I'm doing this video really is I want to know what you think. Do you have any sympathy for Olwen? Because obviously she didn't do anything as far as the child loving was concerned. But do you think she knew anything? You know, do you think she knew that he was flirty or that he was, you know, bit of a perv, basically? Because it wasn't only, you know, obviously what he got prosecuted for. They were the younger, you know, the children or the minors that he did it to. But then it's come out that he was a total sex pest, wasn't it? And you've got people like Vanessa Phelps saying, you know, that he tried to touch her up, and loads of different people, you know, accusing him of being like a bit of a dirty old man, I suppose. Anyway, dementia-stricken Alwyn Hughes refused to believe the disgraced entertainer was evil, and she spent her last lonely months in a £5 million home the couple shared, which may now be demolished. So I don't know if he went financially bankrupt or not. But anyway, Rolf Harris's widow, Alwyn Hughes, died, still refusing to believe her husband was a paedophile, and had the support of their friends and neighbours, who told the Mail Online, "We will miss them both." Gosh. So Mrs. Hughes, who had dementia, bless her, I can't help but say bless her, but you know, did she know about all this? How could she stand by him? You know, I mean, do we think that he was guilty? I think he was definitely guilty, but, well, he was convicted. 15 months after her husband, she's passed away, and she obviously just adored him. You could see that. You know, sometimes it's just like a denial, wasn't it? She wasn't believing. You know, she just didn't want to believe it, I suppose. So she's passed away, age 93, 15 months after her husband, and she remained in their Tameside mansion, unable to get out of bed until suffering a fatal stroke. So it sounds like it's quite a miserable end, really, just sort of bedridden, really. She never accepted that her Australian TV star husband was guilty of the 12 sex attacks on children as young as 7. He was jailed for just under 6 years. I mean, it wasn't a very long sentence, was it? And his wife of 65 years stood by him until his death in 1923. I'm just going to come back to the chat, make sure you're all okay. I've not missed anybody. Yeah, I think he was guilty. I do think that. Oh God, yeah, Tony Hart, Moonbeam. I remember him as well. What was that? Take Heart or something it was called. Oh, probably that was another one. There must have been like a club of them or something, I think. Because they all, you know, well, we know what the BBC's like, you know, and since then there's been Hugh Edwards. And on ITV there's been Philip Schofield. You know, there's always something coming out. Anyway, the couple are survived by their only daughter, Bindi, 60, who largely stood by her tarnished father, insisting he was a flirt from a different generation. So a flirt from a different generation. Well, there's a difference between flirting and being a child lover. That's not flirting. And you know, it was a different generation. It was a different age. We've talked about it before. You know, really, these men got away with murder. You know, like any job that you worked in, there was always the guy to avoid with the wandering hands. You know, but you never went. You couldn't go and sue them for sex discrimination or for harassment because you didn't have those laws then. It was just you just had to sort of try and avoid them, put up with it, try and keep out their way. But every time, any office you worked in or any place you worked in where there was a lot of people, there was always at least one, if not more, that had the wandering hands, you know, and it would be talked about, you watch out for him because he's a bit of a perv. But it wasn't like something you would have thought of gone to the police with. You just sort of got on with it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's how it was then. That is how it was. So she also accompanied him to court during his trial each day. And Alwyn stayed at their home in Bray in Berkshire. I mean, Berkshire, that's where I lived in Reading. I mean, it's a beautiful place. Could not leave the house that local estate agents expect to be sold off for millions. The property is in one of the UK's most exclusive riverside locations, and it could be demolished and replaced with a new mansion. Yeah, these places by the river, like I'm not sure exactly where Bray is, as for you know, but if you're walking along the Thames and you've got Windsor, Caversham, etc., going into Henley and that. I mean, the properties by the side of the river are absolutely beautiful. So yeah, if somebody didn't want the actual mansion, the land, you know, would be worth a fortune. So one near neighbour told Mail Online, it's very sad to see her go, but the past few years she's been bedbound and had no quality of life. We will miss them both. Another person on the street said, we heard she passed a few weeks ago and have seen the family this week emptying the house of personal belongings. It's the end of an era now. They've both gone. So it sounds like she might. Oh, so it sounds like they've kept her death a secret as well, because it said a few weeks ago. Oh, a beautiful dog there as well. So it looks like Rolf was sort of looking after her, but he was ill as well. Rolf and Alwyn with their dog on the banks of the Thames where they lived for many years. So you know what? They didn't have a bad life, did they? They had a good life. They had a long life. And although maybe it was sort of ruined a little bit at the end with all the allegations, etc., you know, still, even without that, they had a long, good life together. So this is them when they were younger. Will that be Bindi in the middle? Yeah, 7 months old daughter Bindi at London Airport in 1962. God. See, it's just like to see Rolf Harris, you know, that were when I was a child, he were that watching him, probably it was about 10 years after this photo was taken, and he was just like this fatherly figure on the telly, you know. But you thought he was, I did anyway, you thought he was funny. I liked the art side of it. I liked the daft things that he did, and I liked the songs that he had. Well, I didn't like Time the Kangaroo Dance Sport, but I liked the Two Little Boys and all that. You know, and just like when you find out someone you really like and then actually they're an absolute twat. So anyway, so did Alwyn know? Did Alwyn know what he was up to with Bindi's friend? Because one of the girls that he abused was Bindi's friend, and he did it over a long period of time. So here's the house. Look, it fronts right onto the river. Imagine living in a house like this. It's like through the keyhole, isn't it? Imagine living in a house like that. It looks absolutely gorgeous, doesn't it? Let's have a look at this video when they arrived in court. Sorry, isn't it?
Too famous, too powerful, it made him untouchable. The jury hearing a different view of Rolf Harris. He arrived at court, his wife and daughter holding his hands, to hear allegations he was a Jekyll and Hyde character.
Yeah, because the thing is, what happens, do you know, when these perpetrators get older, you see him like that and you could almost feel sorry for him because he's an old man. But of course, he wasn't an old man when he was doing all these things. He wasn't an old man then. You know, he was, oh, why is that not? Right, I'm going to have to come out that, hang on. You know, why, oh, it's disappeared, hang on. Yeah, so when he was an old man like that, you could sort of almost feel sorry for him. But, you know, yeah, he wasn't old when he did things. So what do we think? I mean, do we think that, let me just share that again because I had to cut it off. Hi, Darren. Yeah, I agree. It feels like we've been lied to. That's how it felt. It's like, well, I think we have been lied to be honest. I think there's loads more out there that we don't even know about. And a lot of them will be to do with like royalty and things like that. There's loads. You know, it's all connected, I think. Just there's loads of people, famous people, all in the same club. So a local estate agent predicted today that the family home would be sold very soon and executors would be lucky if it sold for £2 million now, as it was in poor condition and had a dark cloud hanging over it. I mean, the thing is, although that's a beautiful property, take a lot of upkeep, wouldn't it? You know, not only financial upkeep, but you'd need a gardener, or you'd be spending a lot of time doing the gardening yourself. You know, it's got loads of rooms and it's got, you know, as much as I do think that property is beautiful, I'm a bit like, when I look at that, I just think, oh God, who's going to do the cleaning? You know, because it's bad enough with my house. My house, I haven't really got a big house, but it's on some you know, different floors, and it's a lot of stairs and it's a lot of cleaning. You just have to do it bit. It just drives me mad. I'd quite like to have just a little square room, you know, that that it was easy to clean, that I could clean in sort of like, you know, an hour instead of it taking me hours and up and down stairs. Especially in the summer, it's a nightmare. Here we go. Tia. I might have to put her in the bathroom because the chihuahua's out there. Right. No. Right, I'm just going to put her in the bathroom. Go on. I'll have to because she's not going to stop. Right, that's it. You've had to. That's what happened. I feel a little bit sorry for her because it's not her fault. She never starts barking first. It's the other one. Hi, Jojo. Yeah, like you say, people we looked up to, Moonbeam, this sort of mass grooming of the population. And now, of course, because we've got social media as well, so we can, inquire about our own things. Because, of course, in those days, I mean, Prince Andrew said it in that interview, that car crash interview he did with Emily Maitlis. He said, oh, well, years ago, people didn't know what everyone was up to. He's so thick him to say something like that. But it's true, but he's thick to say it when he's in an interview trying to say that he's not done anything wrong. Hi, Marcus. Yeah. Well, she's in the bathroom now, so hopefully she'll be quiet now. Hope she didn't split your eardrums or set your dogs off. That's what she tends to do. So yeah, Prince Andrew even said that. Oh, well, years ago, people didn't know what you were up to, and because there was no social media. Well, now there is. So does that mean that it's not going to happen in the future? But first of all, the ones that are already doing it, were doing it, like Hugh Edwards. I mean, he got away with murder, really, with the press coverage and that, because he was a massive name, really, and he was a person who was going around, telling people what a great Christian he was, and this, that, and the other. And it's not, to me, it's not, if he likes men, that's fine, like men, but be, it's not that. Oh, and then of course it turns out that there are actually videos and pictures on his phone from minors as well. So, but it's the hypocrisy of it for me, pretending you're this sort of church going, holier than thou family man. And then it turns out you're not, just be who you are. Anyway, I hope I missed. I said hello to Jojo, didn't I? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so let's just carry on with this then. So, that's them a few years ago by the look of it, when they were a bit younger, in their garden in Berkshire. Yeah. I mean, do we feel any sympathy for Elwyn? I mean, I don't think we feel much sympathy for Rolf, because obviously he was the one doing it. Why do we think Elwyn stuck by him, even though, or do you think, do you think she really didn't believe that he'd done it, or do you think she was just in denial? Oh, and that's them in 1967. Gosh. Oh, I hope he was trustworthy with his own daughter. That's all I can say. Anyway, that's at their wedding. Oh, they seem to like these big poodles, don't they? She chose a poodle as a bridesmaid. Okay, that's fine. No, nothing wrong with that. These are standard poodles, aren't they? The big ones. And they had another one in that photo up at the top. So that's obvious. I mean, the good thing about poodles is they don't molt. You have to take. I had a little toy poodle when I lived in Reading, and for that, they're brilliant. No hairs. Brilliant. So apparently, Rolf begged his daughter Bindi, 58, to look after Alwyn after he died on May the 10th last year. I always believed we would go on longer together, but if I go first, promise you'll take good care of your mum. Before his death, he had celebrated his 65th wedding anniversary with Alwyn, who always stood defiantly by his side alongside their only daughter. Alwyn was born on December the 16th, 1931, in North London, but grew up in Wales. A jeweller and a sculptor, she met Harris in the early 1950s at an art school in Kennington, South London, before marrying him at St Saviour's Church in Paddington in 1958. She was known for her eccentric clothing and is even said to have had a poodle as her bridesmaid. Well, we can see that there. So they share one daughter, Bindi, who's 58, and the family of three were seen walking into Southwark Crown Court together every day during Harris's first trial in 2014. So he was convicted of a string of indecent assaults, including one of an 8-year-old seeking an autograph, 2 girls in their early teens, and a range of abuse of his daughter's friend over 16 years, starting when she was just 13. He was jailed for 5 years for 12 indecent assaults on 4 underage girls, but Alwyn never publicly wavered. Yeah, we don't know what went on behind closed doors. Maybe she had a right go at him, but she never publicly wavered from supporting him. So these are supposed to be the final photos of Rolf Harris. Let's have a look. So these are the last photos of him just before he died. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, to... Oh, look, he's got his didgeridoo out. Hang on. It's jumping about, sorry, hang on. Not sure why it does this sometimes, I don't know. Come on. Right, there you go, it's settling down. So there he is in his Berkshire home. Oh, well, we think it's on, I don't know, on a grand set of stairs with his didgeridoo. So you seem to be having a good time. So this was a party. So that was, he was 88 and he invited 70 guests over to his house to celebrate his first birthday following his release from prison. And during the party, he performed 2 little boys. Sorry. Oh, God, you couldn't make this shit up, could you? So during the party, he performed 2 little boys with the help of a backing band. And a source told the paper it was a very jovial night with lots of singing, dancing and joking. Rolf seemed in his element, performing his old hits with the help of a band and with his trusty didgeridoo. He was reported to have made makeshift didgeridoos while he was in prison out of toilet rolls. At least 2 he's supposed to have made, but they were confiscated. God. Bloody hell. Oh, there's another view of the house. Hang on. I mean, that is, it is a beautiful house. But yeah, just too big, isn't it, really? What's the point in it? Especially as you get older, it's just all cleaning. So if you can't do it, then you've got to pay someone to do it. Oh, let's have a look at this. So this apparently is a video of him and Jimmy Savile.
2 child abusers together. One died before his crimes were revealed. The other has now been convicted of 12 indecent assaults. Several weeks, he says, but Rolf Harris wasn't telling the truth. It's been confirmed that he was at Broadmoor Hospital with Jimmy Savile nearly 20 years earlier in 1973.
Oh my God.
The hospital trust says he was supervised and there is no suggestion of inappropriate behaviour.
Oh my God, could you imagine them two together on the
But just
rampage?
seeing the 2 disgraced stars together seems sinister.
Very sinister. Let's just watch that again. Oh my God. Oh, hang on, let me...
Two child abusers together.
Oh yeah, when I stop it does that. Sorry. Hi,
One
Pauline.
died before his crimes were revealed. The other has now been convicted of 12 indecent assaults. Several weeks, he says, but Rolf Harris wasn't telling the truth. It's been confirmed that he was at Broadmoor Hospital with Jimmy Savile nearly 20 years earlier in 1973.
Oh,
The hospital trust says he was supervised and there is no suggestion of inappropriate behaviour. But just seeing the two disgraced stars together seems sinister.
oh, it does. It's disgust. Gives you the chills, doesn't it? Just gives you the chills. Seeing them two together. Oh God, I think that's him with Prince Charles as well. You know, this is it. Well, Jimmy Savile, he was sort of everywhere and with everybody, wasn't he? And he had the key, didn't he? Didn't he have his own keys to Broadmoor or whatever? I don't think Rolf Harris had that, but it is horrible to see them together, isn't it? You go just like, oh my God, just awful. But anyway, right, let's have a look. I've got another article that I want to read out to you, and then I've got some. I want to talk a little bit about his art, because the only thing that I would say about Rolf Harris is that he was a damn sight better than these bloody royal artists that we seem to be having today. You know, painting King Charles and painting Catherine. Oh my God! And that, have you seen that awful statue that's been unveiled of the Queen and Prince Philip, a bronze statue in Ireland? We're going to look at them because at least Rolf was a better artist. That's the only thing I'd say about him. But we just read this Sun article, and there'll be a video, I expect. Just, it makes me laugh, the Sun. They do make me laugh because look, pedo's wife dead. You know, they don't mess about. They don't, you know, they don't trip over the words. Just pedo's wife dead. But let's have a look.
The wife of disgraced paedophile TV star Rolf Harris has died aged 92, 1 year after her husband. Alwyn Hughes stood by Harris when he was jailed in 2014 for 12 indecent assaults on 4 underage girls between 1968 and 1986. They were married for 65 years prior to Harris's death in May 2023. Hughes had previously been pictured in a wheelchair and was reportedly suffering from Alzheimer's disease in her final years. She attended every day of Harris's initial trial alongside their daughter Bindi. She was a jeweller and sculptress, born on December 26, 1931, in North London. The sculptress grew up in Wales and was known for her eccentric clothing, as well as her decision to have a poodle as a bridesmaid. Hughes first met Harris in the early 1950s while they both attended art school in Kennington. The pair later married in St Saviour's Church in Paddington in 1958. Hughes stuck by her disgraced husband through the proceedings and his subsequent jail term. Harris was convicted of 12 sex attacks on girls as young as 7 and was handed a jail sentence of just under 6 years.
Now, you know, of course, it's always sad to see anyone get old, and when they're old and they're ill, it's always sad to see it, you know. But they had, you know, at the end of the day, they had a lovely life, you know, lots of money, lovely home. And he wasn't actually exposed until well into his later years, you know. So, you know, they did all right, really. There's a lot of, you know, we all get old, and people get old, and it's a shame for everybody. People get Alzheimer's or get other debilitating illnesses, and they don't have the money that they had, and they haven't had maybe the life that they had before that. I with Alwyn, I just can't decide. I just think, is she so completely in denial that she just, you know, how can you turn a blind eye? You know, I think you can turn a blind eye to your husband having an affair, you know, with a woman, a woman, not a child. How can you turn a blind eye to that? I don't know how you can. But we don't know what went on behind closed doors. Maybe she just came from that era where people always stuck together, and or maybe she genuinely decided that she didn't believe it. She didn't believe what these things about him. Who knows? But they did seem to be hi, old bod. They did seem to be, like thick as thieves, didn't they? They did seem to be so close, and that's almost hard to believe that she didn't know anything. Or did she sort of suspect but turn a blind eye? Sometimes people can't face up to these kind of things. Who knows? But anyway, they're together now, wherever they've passed on to the next world. Rolf Harris, he'll be, hopefully be paying for whatever he sins in this life, in the next life. And now Alwyn's sort of followed him up there. But what I wanted to look at was some of so he painted a portrait of the Queen. Now, in another stream a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about one of my students who's when her parents died, when her dad died, who was the last parent to die, there was some arguments about money with her and her brother. And anyway, the good thing that came out of it, or the poetic justice, if you like, was that her brother, when he'd invested in art from Rolf Harris paintings. When he got this money, or got some money, he bought a load of Rolf Harris artwork. Before obviously all this came out, when Rolf Harris artwork was worth something. Of course, now it's not, it's not even worth the canvas it's painted on, is it? But it was quite poetic justice, really, because apparently this, but obviously I only have one side of the story. But my student was telling me, he hadn't been very nice to her, and he'd invested his money in Rolf Harris's art. And it was like, yeah, talk about karma. Because God knows what he's done with it. He's probably took it down the tip or something in the end. But Rolf Harris was a good painter. I mean, that's one thing, you couldn't say that he wasn't, really. And I'm going to show you the painting that he did of Queen Elizabeth. Just let me put some windows down. I had it ready somewhere, but of course it's disappeared, but it won't take a minute to find it. There it is. So Rolf painted this portrait of Queen Elizabeth. Now, it is a good painting, isn't it? I believe she was very happy with it. This guy in The Guardian, I think it is, or The Telegraph, I'm not sure. Yeah, The Guardian is saying that he saw a different side of Rolf Harris, because apparently this journalist who wrote this article is more than 10 years old, said that when he challenged the artistic value of his painting, he saw a different man behind the beaming face. Well, it's obvious that Rolf Harris had a dark side. He's in the public arena, he's all laughy jokey, jovial, sort of. I just remember when I was a kid, he was like your dad, reminded you of your dad, or reminded me of my dad, just like real nice guy. Never even thought for a minute that he would have ever turned out to be what he was. Just honestly, I couldn't believe it when it came out. But like most of them, Stuart Hall, Jimmy Savile, I always thought was a little bit freaky, because I didn't know why he had to wear those funny little shorts. He always knocked me sick whenever he was running, doing those runs that he used to do with a cigar in his mouth. And he always had them tiny little shorts on, and they used to knock me sick. So he was always a little bit icky. But Rolf Harris, no, I would never have thought anything. So this is the portrait of the Queen that he did, and it's a good portrait. And God knows, so apparently nobody knows where it is now, which is quite funny. Where did I read that? It said somewhere in something as I was reading that that portrait of the Queen launched with such a fanfare 9 years ago. So that's actually 19 years ago, because this article is 10 years old. No one will admit to even knowing where it is. The Royal Collection and the BBC both deny owning it or having seen it in years. Perhaps they will soon deny there was ever such a painting. Well, there you go. They can't deny it because I've got the evidence in my videos. We've got a picture of it. It definitely existed. And I remember it coming out. You know, there's always a big fanfare, isn't there, around royal paintings and stuff. It's always big news for some unknown reason. And it just made me laugh because did you see the latest? You remember when we looked at the latest portrait of King Charles? That was it. This is the. I mean, there was a big kerfuffle about this, wasn't there? People were saying it was Masons turned upside down, and I mean, to me, it's just all this bright red around it. Just looks like a serial killer painting, like something John Wayne Gacy would do. You know, I thought it was awful. And then the only thing you can really see clearly is the face and the sausage fingers. You know, it's like. So, you know, one thing at least you can say about Rolf Harris, he was a good painter. Do you remember when he used to do those, like, God, some program he was on? I mean, I can hardly remember it because I was really young, but yeah, he'd just do a painting there and then, wouldn't he, during the show? He'd just start painting something and it'd always be really good. But, you know, this bloody painting took this guy months, years to do, and it's crap. Well, I think it is anyway. And it just reminds me of blood and just not nice at all. And even King Charles looked, he sort of recoiled from it when he unveiled it, didn't he? It was like, oh my God. I wonder if I can find that little video because it was funny. Oh God, as soon as I started typing that in, it came up. So yeah, let's have a look at this unveiling. I just remember showing it and it made me laugh because you can tell he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. You can see it on his face. He's thinking, for fuck's sake, has that taken you all that time? Let's have another look. They're all like, and Camilla's clapping, but even her face you can see. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? What a load of rubbish. God, how much have we paid for that? Well, the British public probably paid for it. I doubt very much if Charles paid for it. Don't think Charles pays for anything, does he? Go and do it again, Charles. Let's have one more look. I just imagine when they were on their way home. Can you imagine the conversation? Well, not that they lived together, did they? They lived separately. But if they were in like the limousine on the way home, can you imagine the conversation? And you'd have Camilla going, you know, I thought that was awful. Whatever. But anyway, it tickled me anyway. Sorry, I hope I haven't offended anybody who might be a royalist. Yeah, David. Tales of unexpected. And yeah, he probably had an old can of red paint that he's had knocking around for years, and he thought, oh, that'll do. And he just chucked it at the. I mean, it's just awful. So anyway, that's not the worst one. That's not the worst one, though. Probably it is. I don't know if you saw poor Catherine. Now, how can you go wrong? You know me. I'm not a royalist, but even I can see that Princess Catherine. She's an attractive woman. Like, how can you go wrong with Princess Catherine? But apparently you can. So, did you see this painting of Princess Catherine? Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't look anything like. Let her out of the bathrooms. I had to put her in because she was bad. Look. Looks absolutely nothing like Princess Catherine. So it looks like we've really missed Rolf Harris. We've really missed him because they can't find a decent art. It does, Pauline. I did a better one than that for my A-level art, and I got a B. It was a better picture than that. I mean, it's got no depth in it. It's got doesn't look like her. If somebody showed you that and you didn't know it was supposed to be her, she looks like the Snow Queen or the Witch of Narnia or something, from the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Looks absolutely nothing like Princess Catherine. It's an insult, to be honest. And again, how much has that cost? A portrait of strength and dignity. Hannah Uzo's painting of the Princess of Wales is Tatler's July 2024 cover. Ah, dear. So this a portrait as well. That's better if that's a painting. That's good. That's good. That looks like her at least. Paul Emsley. Yeah, that's good. I hadn't seen that one before, so I do think that's good of her. But it's still not that brilliant, to be honest. There's something it doesn't quite capture about her. But anyway, it's better than this load of shite, isn't it? It's like, I mean, look at that. Good God. Awful, awful picture, I think. Looks more like Meghan. Yeah. Well, God, don't tell Catherine that. That'll cause an absolute storm, wouldn't it? And then even worse, when you think it can't get worse, because you just think, well, how much are all these portraits costing? Are these like people? How are these people getting these contracts to make these paintings? It honestly makes me speechless, because you think, doing a royal portrait is supposed to be, do a good one, for God's sake. I mean, you're talking about something that, you talk about the royal family where, it's like, I'm just speechless. I could do a better one of that. I've got better drawings than that on my wall of my mum and dad and our dogs and everything. I can do a better drawing than that. I'm not very good at painting, to be honest. Painting's not my thing. But I certainly could draw a better picture than that. BF. So BF says if she takes the glasses off, it looks like oh my God. Dear me. So anyway, gets even worse just when you think it can't get worse. Have you seen, right, let's see, where's these? So there's been some sculptures unveiled in Northern Ireland for some reason. Let's see. I did have it ready, but it's all gone funny. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm just even just looking at it. How can I make that bigger? So it doesn't help that it's been raining because it looked like he had a big dewdrop going off his nose. Oh dear me. Look at his face. He's probably. Have we got any sound on this? Hang on. Let's go back to the beginning. That's supposed to be Queen Elizabeth. He looks like he's got a cold. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, they were small. The corgis are quite good. Is it? A lot of it. No, it isn't. It's not. Oh, this is the other video anyway. Oh, was I saying? No, hang on. Let me put the. It started putting a different one on. Hang on. Let's go back to the original one. It's the sculptures we want to look at. Now, I think she looks like a washerwoman in it, the Queen. Perhaps we should have got Rolf Harris's wife to do it because she was a sculptress. Just, I mean, that'll have cost a fortune as well. They're bronze. Let's try this one. Oh, sorry, it didn't come up. All right, hang on. Where's it gone? Let's try again. So, divides opinion.
Sculpture of the late monarch standing alongside Prince Philip and two corgis was erected in Northern Ireland last week, but there was scathing feedback on social media, as there always is about anything. Some claiming it.
Oh, come on. That doesn't look like the Queen. Now, the way his stance, the way he's standing, looks a little bit like Prince Philip and the way he stood, but I still don't think it looks like him. And it looks like his arms, that arm's too short, isn't it? Looks like it's been cut off. I'm sure it should be a bit longer. And the Queen just, well, to me, that just looks like a washerwoman.
It looks nothing like her and should therefore be taken down. Others said it was.
Oh, come on. Come on. Who thinks that looks like the Queen? Do any of you think? I should do a poll, but I can't do it on here, I don't think. I should do a poll. Let me see if I can do a poll. Just tell me if you think it looks like her or not. That it's not even. I mean, it can't be easy doing a sculpture in bronze. Just looking at the way her eyebrows arch there, it's like, who does she look like? It's certainly not the Queen. Not in my eyes, anyway.
More of an insult than a tribute, or joked it looked like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, and I saw that somebody said it looked like a hyacinth bouquet out of Keeping Up Appearances. And then looking at that now, you can see behind her, that looks nothing like Philip. The only thing that looked a bit like Philip was the actual stance, a little bit how he used to stand. But the face looks nothing like him. And what on earth made them choose to do a bronze statue of the Queen with a headscarf on and on one of her shoots or whatever. That's how she dresses when she goes out shooting or fox hunting or whatever horrible thing she used to do. So people don't want to see the Queen like that. But it doesn't even look like the Queen anyway. The face looks nothing like her whatsoever, in my opinion. And I know it must be difficult in bronze to get a good likeness. Let's put it back to the beginning again. Oh, for God's sake.
A new statue of Queen Elizabeth II has been unveiled, but it's dividing opinion online. A bronze sculpture of the late monarch standing alongside Prince Philip and two corgis was erected in Northern Ireland last week, but there was scathing feedback on social media, as there always is about anything, some claiming it looks nothing like her and should therefore be taken down.
Yeah, Nora Batty, exactly. Or what did somebody else say? So it was Nora Batty or Les Dawson. Yeah. Oh my God. Dear me. And yeah, the corgis are good. The corgis are good, at least. You're going to make me hungry, Heather, saying that you're getting I can't remember the last time I had an Indian takeaway. But yeah, oh dear, oh me. Oh, so you've got your Rolf Harris Prince, Heather. Well, yeah, I don't think maybe you can get them beamed up at Area 51 because I don't think they'll ever be worth anything again. Maybe, in the future.
Others said it was more of an insult than a tribute, or joked it looked like Mrs.
Doubtfire, they said. Well, I think Nora Batty, was it you, David, who said Nora Batty? I think that's exactly what it looks like. So in some ways, we are missing Rolf Harris because we've had the rubbish painting of King Charles, the rubbish painting of Princess Catherine, and now we've got the rubbish sculptures. What's going on in Britain? Where's all our artists gone? We used to be good at art. Having said that, they were all pedos, but never mind. No, but we did. We're like, so we're even the laughing stock of the world as far as bloody art's concerned now. It's bad enough, everything else. Oh dear. So if I went to that park, if I had or wherever it is that they are, and I didn't know about these statues, I don't think I'd know who they were if I saw them. The only thing I do think the stance of Prince Philip is like the way he used to stand.
Doubtfire. A new statue of Queen Elizabeth II has been unveiled, but it's dividing opinion online. A bronze sculpture of the late monarch standing alongside Prince Philip and two corgis was erected in Northern Ireland last week, but there was scathing feedback on social media, as there always is about anything, some claiming it looks nothing like her and should therefore be taken down. Others said it was more of an insult than a tribute, or joked it looked like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh dear, oh dear. Hilarious. But of course, it's not actually funny because these things, they cost a lot of money, don't they? Somebody, the British taxpayer, has paid for these things, these rubbish portraits and that. And let's go back to the one we were looking at, the one that Rolf did. And that was good. Unfortunately that it turned out to be a child lover, because that's a very good portrait of the Queen. I really do remember it coming out and all the fuss around it and thinking, yeah, it's captured the Queen, hasn't it? It looks like her. Wonder where it is. It's probably in the toilet in Buckingham Palace. Or maybe they've made Prince Andrew take it to where he lives. Or maybe they gave it to Harry and Meghan as a wedding present. It's got to be somewhere. I don't think they'll have destroyed it. Because they'll be just hanging on, just in case maybe one day it'll be worth something, or maybe one day people will forget about it, and maybe Prince Charles has got it hung up somewhere privately, because it does look like his mum. At the end of the day, that's his mum. So very interesting to know where that portrait is, or has it just been sort of, maybe they need to put it in an art gallery so Just Stop Oil can throw paint all over it or something, and they can get the insurance on it. Crazy. It's a crazy world that we live in. Yeah, that's right. It did look a bit like Mrs. Brown's Boys as well, Pauline. You're right. Ah, dear me. I don't know. The world just keeps on getting stranger, doesn't it? So anyway, the point of doing this video, of course, was just to talk about Elwyn, Rolf's wife, who did stand by him through everything that he did. And I'd just like to, I don't know the names of all his victims. So because I'd like to say something about them, let me just see if I can find anything about them. Because, of course, they get forgotten a bit, don't they? Because it's all talk about Rolf Harris. Not really so much talk about the victims, but maybe they want to be anonymous. So it's saying here that, we know about Vanessa Phelps. These are other victims, not the ones he was prosecuted for. 2014, she alleged that he assaulted her while she interviewed him live on the bed during an edition of Channel 4 morning programme, The Big Breakfast. And Linda Nolan alleged that he groped her when she was 15, when the Nolan sisters were his support act in South Africa. Let's see if I can find out the other. One of them was this Karen Gardner. So let's have a look. I haven't seen this Has any of you seen this documentary? I don't think I've seen it unless it's on Netflix. I saw something on Netflix. Rolf Harris, Hiding in Plain Sight, includes the story of victim A, who was a family friend and was instrumental in gaining a conviction against him in 2014. And her grooming started from the age of 13. And this was key evidence that led to his downfall. So this is in this documentary, Hiding in Plain Sight. A number of other women will also talk about degrading and awful treatment that went on for decades in the television industry, as they claim he groped women whenever given the opportunity. And they've waived their right to anonymity to tell the story of how they say his assaults impact on them. So I'm going to look out for that. I did see something on Netflix, but I don't know if it's that particular documentary. So the commissioning editor, Kate Tepman, said there's been the extraordinary story of Saville, which has been told brilliantly on Netflix, but I genuinely think a lot of people think it wasn't that bad. The focus did get diluted and no one cared as much. When you see what Harris did, it was really, really bad and it's got lost. It's an important story and we should reflect on what the victims have to say. So this is the therapist, Chip Summers, talking on behalf of victim A. In the second half of the 90s, a woman came looking for help for an alcohol problem, and it became apparent there was a huge secret that she was holding on to. She was having an enormous amount of difficulty talking about it. She claimed she'd experienced several prolonged instances of sexual abuse from the age of 13, and she was giving me permission to talk about them. She said, "This person is very well known. I've been part of the family for some time, and I don't know whether or not I should say the name." And then she told him the name. So yeah, that must have been so difficult to come out with that when it's a famous person. You know, like that, how difficult it must be to come forward. So she said that he began to request sex acts to be performed on him in his home, in her home, wherever opportunity presented itself, becoming more intense, more frequent. And he always said, she said she was clearly told, "This is something you cannot talk about. Do not tell anybody about this. This is our little secret. I am a powerful person. I have money, so tread carefully." Yeah, I can just imagine it. Yeah, so now I'm losing sympathy completely now to Olwyn, because if she's seen these things, and that was a friend of her daughter, and Olwyn just supported Savile and did not support this girl. Gosh. And this is a family friend, Chris Brosnan said I was privy to more predatory behaviour than a lot of other people would ever seen. The shadow began to creep in and crept out more and more. So he seemed to know about it. And even in front of Alwyn, he would take a woman's hand and then hold their hand and pull them in closer to him, and then he'd start kissing them all the way up their arm, and then he'd get up to their neck and he'd be kissing their neck. And he was doing that in front of Alwyn. So what do you imagine that he was doing when Alwyn wasn't there? Oh, I remember I was driving Rolf back from the BBC, and there were two schoolgirls in uniform walking along. I'm driving the car, and Rolf out of the blue just says, "Jesus, couldn't you just FUCK the pair of them?" Good God. Nice guy, nice guy. So he apparently pulled him up on it, and he said to him, "I shouldn't have said that in front of you." Yeah. So he's not a nice person. And actually, now that I'm glad that I've done this video, because now I'm thinking, I'm sorry, Alwyn, but you should never have stuck up for him, because, you know, it's women who stick up for their partners. Or men, I suppose, if it was the other way around, but it doesn't happen so much the other way around. But it's women that stick up for their partners. That's what allows it to happen. You know, years ago, a girl that I shared, you know, like a student place with for a while, she, you know, there was some issues in her family with her sister and her father. And I just remember saying to her, because she was sort of, you know, not sure what to believe. And I just remember saying to her, "Well, do you think, you know, is your sister the sort of person who would tell lies about something like that?" And she just said, "Oh, well, no." So I said, "Well, then really, she's probably telling the truth." You know, but sometimes I think it's just difficult to believe. And her mum, she was odd. You know, I honestly, God, I remember I was in my room one day in the sort of student house like that we shared, and her mum was staying for the weekend, and she just walked into my room. Like, so her mum was probably in her late 60s at the time, and I was, you know, I don't know, 30 or whatever. And She just walked into my room completely stark bollock naked. Like she just had a shower. And she said, "Oh, have you got some deodorant I can borrow?" And honest to God, I just looked. I was absolutely stunned. You know, it was just like, don't walk into my room with no clothes on. Thank you very much. It's just like, it was horrible. I found that actually quite abusive. You know, for anybody that you don't even know that well. Even my own mother wouldn't do that. My own mother, never mind my friend's mother, to just walk in. I think she actually had a towel on, first of all. And I can't remember. I've blocked it out of my memory. But all I know is she was just like, don't you think that's almost like an abuse in itself, isn't it? Because it's someone you don't know just walking in like that. And so I remember thinking at the time, because this friend of mine had already told me this about sister, I remember thinking at the time, definitely, definitely, because this mother is oblivious. You know, like just, it's like, oh, my eyes, you know, where do I put my eyes? Like, anyway, strange. But you know what? People are odd, aren't they? There's naught so queer as folk, as they say. I know. Pauline. God. Can you imagine? I was absolutely mortified. So who was saying they were at school with one of the loose women? Which loose woman was it? I hate loose women. Sorry about that. For anyone who's a fan of loose women. And you think I would like it, wouldn't you? Because it's women chatting and stuff. But I really dislike it. I can't stand Janet Street Porter for a start. I'm not keen on the Nolan woman. And I'm trying to think if there was ever anybody on there that I actually enjoyed watching. Don't think there was. So I never watch it anyway now, unless they've got a really interesting guest on. But, you know, wouldn't ever, I can't even remember the last time I watched Loose Women. I don't like it. I don't like, oh, I don't know. I think Janet Street Porter is the worst one on it. But people like it. It's a popular program. Yeah, who does watch it? Because I don't actually know anybody who likes it. But that just must be because the people I know, they like similar things to me. But I'm sure some people love it. I'm sure some people love it. I feel sorry for the guys who go on it. I think they're probably terrified. Also, I think they're quite bitchy between themselves. You know, like sometimes, like if you've got a group of women like that, they're supposed to stick up for each other, aren't they? But sometimes women aren't very nice to other women. I don't like that. So, yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'm waffling on a little bit now. So I just thought I'd come on and talk about Rolf Harris's wife. And I'm glad I came on. I sort of talked it out. And now I'm at a point where I'm thinking, I'm sorry, Alwyn, I don't feel sorry for you. Because you knew exactly, you probably even knew what he was doing. So it sounds like he was an outrageous flirt, even in front of her. So for me, sometimes people cover up things like that, don't they? They do it publicly and like, oh, you know, big kisses and this, that, and the other. And then, so when they do things like behind people's backs, people think, oh, that's just Rolf. You know, Rolf's just a flirt. But at the same time, he's trying to grope somebody under the skirt or whatever, you know, and it's not all innocent what he's doing. So, Pauline, Pauline, you're making me laugh. Jane Moore, which one's she? I don't know who she is. Let me have a look for a picture of her. Oh, right, okay. Let me just put this up. Yeah, I don't like this one either. the whatever her name is. Yeah, and I don't like Jane Moore. I don't really like any of them. God, there must be some of the loose women that. Oh, I'll tell you what I used to like, but of course she's not on it anymore because. What are you doing? So the dog's thrown all the cushions off the chair so she can get comfy. The one that I did used to like, but unfortunately she has died now, is the one that used to be on the OXO adverts. But she had cancer, didn't she? Linda Bellingham. Let's get a picture of her up. And that was probably the last time I ever watched Loose Women. Oh, Jesus, when she was on it. Oh, bless her. But yeah, and I remember I like the OXO adverts as well. We used to have some really good adverts on the TV, didn't we? You know, it was like the adverts were part of watching the TV, but they're all rubbish now, aren't they? You just can't wait to get out and put your kettle on. The adverts are annoying. But yeah, we used to play like things like guess the advert and stuff like that. So whoever could be the first person to say what the advert was. Daft things we used to do when we were a kid. And Nadia Sawala, yeah, don't like her either. Hi, Katrina. Oh, you like her? Hey, stop. You like Nadia, but yeah, I'm not keen on her, I'm afraid. The only one, as I say, I liked was Linda Bellingham, and then I don't think I've ever really watched it since then. Who else is it? Oh, I quite like Denise Welsh. She's all right. She makes me laugh sometimes. But yeah, Janet Street Porter, forget it. I know she's about. Don't worry, Pauline. I'm going now in a minute. Katrina, I feel bad because you've only just arrived and I'm going. But anyway, you'll be able to watch on catch up. So let's just go back to good old Rolf to finish off. Oh, bad old Rolf. So they're both gone now. They'll be together in the other world where I don't know if they've gone up or down. Or maybe he's gone down and she's gone up. Who knows? Yeah. The thing is, in the end, just because she's old and she was frail and she had dementia and she died, you know, housebound, and just for that, I want to feel sorry for her. Oh, but that's what I was going to say. Because getting old is scary and getting ill and everything is horrible for everybody. And, you know, it's just human nature to feel sorry for people. But just because somebody's old doesn't take away from the horrible things they did when they were young, you know, as far as Rolf Harris is concerned. So, you know, do we still feel sorry for people just because then they're old and infirm? But when you look at what happened earlier, we can't feel sorry for them, can we? So, you know, my human nature does feel sorry for her, because probably in the end it was all quite pathetic. But really, she was all about Rolf, wasn't she? All she cared about was Rolf. She didn't care about his victims. It was all just her and Rolf. So, yeah, no, I don't feel sorry for her. I've decided. Okay, I'll see you soon. Oh, you've been listening. Okay. Right, now, take care. Remember to look after you, because you are the most important person. And please remember to like, and if you're not subscribed, please think about subscribing. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Tie your kangaroo down, sport. Tie your kangaroo down. Bye. Good night.